Peace be upon you, brothers and sisters. This is Said Mirza from MillionaireReason.com, and in today's video, we're going to be looking at the law of marriage in the Quran. This is from my book, God's Writ in the Quran, a guidance for the God fearing, in which I have compiled verses from the Quran that talk about specific topics such as marriage, divorce, inheritance, food, what you can eat, what you can't eat. Um, and there are other topics as well. So I hope that this will start um, a discussion as to what the writ of God is all about and how we can implement it in our daily lives. This is very important. I'll put a link in the drop down box below in which I've done a little bit of an introduction of this work. So the current project right now is to make people aware of the writ of God, which is complete, fully detailed in the Quran, and to stop relying on these liars, the doctors of the law, for questions, the answers to questions, which doctors of the law, they love to give you um, details on things and prohibit what God has allowed and allow what God has prohibited. So this is really the phase of the work that I'm in. So today I want to look at the law of marriage within the context of the Quran and only the Quran. So let's begin. This is chapter 30, verse 21. And among his proofs is that he created for you spouses from yourselves, that you might be reassured thereby, and made between you love and mercy, in that are proofs for people who reflect. Allowed and forbidden marriage candidates. This is chapter 2, verse 221. And marry not idolatresses until they believe, and a believing slave girl is better than an idolatress, though she impress you. And give not in marriage to idolaters until they believe, and a believing slave is better than an idolater, though he impress you. Those invite to the fire, and God invites to the garden and forgiveness by his leave, and he makes plain his proofs to men that they might take heed. So the question arises, what is an idolater? Because we cannot marry an idolater. So for that, you can just look at the footnote. This is footnote 27, in which I give a list of verses where this word is used, and it'll tell you who an idolater is, basically. As for the believing woman, we have an apt description in chapter 60, verse 12, of what a believing woman is. So I advise you to read that, and then you'll see, what the Quran considers a believing woman. To continue, chapter 24, verse 3: The unchaste man shall not marry save an unchaste woman or an idolatress, and an unchaste woman shall not marry save an unchaste man or an idolater, and that is unlawful to the believers. So what does that mean, an unchaste man? You can just refer to the footnotes in the chapter of this book, and you'll see a list of verses where this word occurs, and from there you can determine what the Quran means by the unchaste man. Okay, to continue, this is chapter 24, verses 32 and 33. And give in marriage the unmarried among you, and the righteous among your male slaves and your female slaves, if they be poor. God will enrich them out of his bounty, and God is encompassing and knowing. And let abstain those who find not marriage until God enriches them out of his bounty. And those who seek the writ from among those your right hands possess, contract with them, if you know good to be in them, and give to them out of the wealth God has given you, and compel not your slave girls to whoredom, if they desire chastity, seeking the enjoyment of the life of this world. And whoso compels them, then God after that compulsion is forgiving and merciful. So a lot of ink has been spent on trying to determine what the Quran means by this term, what your right hands possess. I ignore directives for what a believer's right hand possess. I don't get into this term, and the reason is that this class is not legally recognized anymore. I'm not saying slavery does not exist. Slavery does exist, but this class is not. It doesn't have any legal protection, and we're talking about the law of God. We're talking about legality, really. So in this day and age, for our purposes, we can ignore this directive where it talks about those whom your right hands possess. Let's continue on. This is chapter 4, verses 22 through 25. And this is sort of the meat of the directives on marriage. And marry not what your fathers married among women, save what is past. It was sexual immorality and hateful, and an evil path. Forbidden to you are your mothers, and your daughters, and your sisters, and your paternal aunts, and your maternal aunts, and the daughters of your brother, and the daughters of your sister, and your milk mothers, and your milk sisters, and the mothers of your wives, and your stepdaughters under your protection from your wives unto whom you have gone in. And if you have gone not in unto them, then there is no wrong upon you, and the wives of your sons of your loins, and that you bring two sisters together, save what is past. God is forgiving and merciful. And chaste women, save what your right hands possess. The writ of God is over you, but lawful to you is what is beyond that, if you seek with your wealth in chastity, not being fornicators. And what you enjoy thereby of them, give them their rewards as an obligation. And there is no wrong upon you in what you do by mutual agreement after the obligation. God is knowing and wise. And whoso among you has not the means to marry chaste believing women, then from what your right hands possess of believing maids, and God best knows your faith, you are of one another. So marry them with the leave of their people, and give them their rewards according to what is fitting, they being chaste, and not fornicators, nor taking secret friends. But when they are in wedlock, then if they commit sexual immorality, upon them is half of what is due the chaste woman of punishment. That is for him who fears hardship among you, and that you be patient is best for you, and God is forgiving and merciful. Obviously, this is not the format to really get into the meat and potatoes of these directives, and that's why the book is published. There's a book out there. I wrote this book. It's called God's Writ in the Qur'an, a guidance for the God-fearing, in which I have, where necessary, explained the verses and in my footnotes. And I've also included Brother Garen's excellent commentary on a lot of these verses. So I suggest you read this carefully, because this is the law of God. It's not something you can get from a YouTube video. The point of these videos is to introduce you to this work that is available now, so you can go in there and try to really understand what God is requiring of you and implement these laws. We read in chapter 2 in the first couple of verses, it's Alif Lam Mim, Dalikul Kitabu La Rayba Fi Hudal Lil Muttaqin. That is the Al Kitab, the writ, no doubt about it, guidance for those who fear God, those of prudent fear. So this is guidance. You have to implement these laws, these commandments of God, which are contained in the writ of God. To continue, we cannot marry chaste women of the common folk. While Brother Gans has translated Mosanatu as married woman in verse 424, I have opted to use chaste to keep its meaning consistently in line with its usage throughout the Quran. Verse 24:3 forbids unchaste women to the believers, and verse 424 also forbids chaste women of the common folk to the believers, effectively leaving only chaste believing women or chaste women of those given the writ before as possible candidates for a believing man. In other words, we can only marry chaste women of the Al-Kitab. The below verse confirms this understanding. In chapter 5, verse 5, we have, This day are good things made lawful for you, and the food of those given the writ is lawful for you, and your food is lawful for them, as are chaste women among the believing women, and chaste women among those given the writ before you, when you have given them their dowries, being chaste and not fornicators, nor taking secret friends. And whoso denies the faith, his work has been in vain, and he in the hereafter is among the losers. So now you move on to the marriage procedure, which is in chapter 60, verses 10 and 11. O you who heed warning, when the believing women come to you as emigres, examine them. God best knows their faith. And if you know them to be believing women, then return them not to the atheists. Such women are not lawful for them, and they are not lawful for such women. And give them what they spent. And you do no wrong to marry such women when you give them their rewards. And hold not by tie denying women, and ask for what you have spent, and let them ask for what they have spent. That is the judgment of God. He judges between you, and God is knowing and wise. And if any of your wives slip away from you to the atheists, then you are met with the same. Give those whose wives have gone the like of what they spent, and be in prudent fear of God in whom you are believers. Again, I encourage you to read the footnotes so you get a better understanding of what's in the verse. Okay, so marrying a believing widow, what are the requirements for that? And we find that in chapter 2, verses 234 and 235. And those of you who die and leave behind wives, they shall wait by themselves 4 months and 10. And when they have reached their term, then you do no wrong in what they do concerning themselves, according to what is fitting. And God is aware of what you do. And you do no wrong in what you intimate to women of proposal, or hide within yourselves. God knows that you will remember them. But make not nor take an oath with them secretly, save that you speak a fitting word. And do not decide upon the knot of marriage until the writ reaches its term. And know that God knows what is within your souls. So fear him, and know that God is forgiving and clement. So now we move on to the taking of oaths. Although the above verses are in the context of marrying women whose husbands have died, a close reading of 235 makes it clear that an oath must be taken as part of the due process of marriage. This is also referred to obliquely in 421. In conclusion, a believing man can only marry a believing woman or a woman from the people of the writ, that is, communities that implement God's writ. The mechanics of getting married are straightforward. They involve the man giving the woman a payment and the taking of oaths. So, this is, in conclusion, the procedure for marriage and the possible candidates for marriage. This is for the believers, and this is from my book, God's Writ in the Quran. So I think we're just gonna stop here, and God willing, we're gonna talk in the next video about the procedure related to divorce in the writ of God. Till next time, peace and blessings be upon you.